What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of we don't have a name for this yet. We're basically watching movies that Lex has not seen yet and or me, but it's going to be more likely her because I've seen a lot of fucking movies. But anyway, we watched Scream 2 in anticipation for the last installment, I believe, in the Scream franchise, Scream 6, which came out yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago. It's the 12th now. Excuse me, the 12th now when we're recording this podcast. So we're going to be talking about the second movie and what we thought, primarily what she thought as a first-time viewer. So we have a bunch of notes and a bunch of stuff to talk about. So right off the bat, for those of you that haven't seen, we're going to have a link in this video's description of the very first episode. We started off this series with Scream 1. It is my favorite slasher franchise, and I thought it was a good starting point to start because her and I met and bonded over the first Scream movie and Ghostface and all that kind of shit. So we're going to start with discussing a bit of a difference as far as what the sequel had to offer. Vaguely, and then we'll go into some details. We have a criteria which will appear as we talk about it down somewhere in there. I'm trying to point, but yeah. So you guys will be able to follow along with us. It's going to be the same criteria we use throughout each episode of videos like this, so you guys can kind of know what's coming and how we break this stuff down. So right off the bat, is there anything you want to add or anything you want to talk about before we get into details as to what you thought of Scream 2?
Honestly, no, not really. I'm ready to just get into the details.
Cool. Devil's in the details. All right, here we go. So based off of the criteria that we have, it's a simple one that we came up with, and this only really pertains to slasher movies, but we're basically going to go over them real quick so you guys are familiar, those of you who haven't been to the channel yet. If you're listening on Spotify and that kind of thing, so you guys don't have to worry about reading, we're just going to read them out to you. So here are the things we're going to be using to judge. The intro before the title card, if any. The first appearance of the killer, the first kill, the dopest kill, the lame ass kill, overall plot, best supporting character, worst supporting character, theme music, if any, killer's weapon, the killer's appearance, how scary the movie was, the best thing about the movie, the worst thing about the movie, and overall how we would rate it 1 out of 10. So that's what we're going off of right now. So to start things off, the intro was very similar. So I'm just going to go first. The intro was very similar to the original. It was a cold opening, I guess is what they call it. It just kind of started out of nowhere. This time, instead of it being following somebody's house or following somebody while they're in their house, they were basically in a movie theater. The events of the first movie has been turned into a book by Gail, Courtney Cox's character, and they're pretty much following the events of the first movie in our first movie of Scream in a in-world telling, which is called Stab. So it's not as confusing as I just made it. So basically, these two characters are college students. It leads us to believe that later on you see that Sydney is in college, and these are two of her classmates. And she's not in Woodsboro anymore. She's in California, I believe. Or no, I think Woodsboro's in California. So I think she's in New York or she's in some other state that I can't remember right now. But it basically starts off with them going to the movies to see this Stab movie as opposed to a Sandra Bullock film. And I think it's really cool because it's very, realistic for me to go to the movies and feel like you're as close to the movie that you're watching as you possibly can be, because you're surrounded by other like-minded people. Theoretically, you're in a room with acoustics and surround sound and a giant screen in the dark. People typically shouldn't be on their cell phones, that kind of thing. So you're really fully immersed in the movie. So it kind of brings you, like I said, into the movie without actually being a part of it. And that these people are trying to see that, because we watch movies based on tragedies all the time, if there are any. Cocaine Bear's getting ready to come out, so I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of people watching that. So that kind of thing kind of brings people to the movies. And I thought it was pretty cool because up until that time, I don't think it's been done before. And I really enjoyed seeing, people go, well, I'm in the safety of a movie theater watching a tragic event that happened, a couple of years, if not a year beforehand. So I thought it was pretty decent. What did you think?
Yeah, I definitely liked the intro a lot. It honestly, it made it kind of seem like though everyone kind of forgot that the movie was completely based off of true real life events and just super realistic stuff that could really happen to anybody. And I feel like part of the reason why it just they feel like, or it seems like they don't really take it very seriously and don't really realize that it's, you know, such a real thing that could happen, is because like Gail and the people who made the movie kind of made it into like a more like gimmicky like money grab type thing.
Right.
So like the people in the movie theater are just like, you know, making a big joke out of it. They're just like, but at the same time, you know, they're just kind of like, it seems like they're also just like kind of horror fanatics, which I mean,
Same. Yeah.
But it's really interesting because that kind of like leads into like the first kill and everything, and part of the reason why it's so like interesting, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
And another thing about like the intro, like when they sit down to watch the movie, Phil and Maureen, we see like Gale Weathers on the movie screen, on the theater screen, and it just like obviously if you've seen the first one, it like shows you that she kind of got what she wanted from the first one. You know, she got her book published, she got and even a movie made after it. So it's just like, oh, and it's extremely sex.
You heard it here first, guys. It's extremely sex.
It's sex. No, but it's extremely successful, and ultimately she got what she wanted from the first movie.
Yeah, I really enjoyed how they kind of came out with it, and they're like, you know, you see it from like somebody in like the back row, if memory serves. And if we're fucking up the details, guys, just like bear with us, because we're trying to be like, we watched the movie twice, I believe. This one we watched it twice. I've seen it a million times, but even then certain details escape me. And because the Scream movies I've seen so many times that I watch them in the background sometimes. And I believe the scene that they show that is based on the book by Gale Weathers it's kind of like in the nosebleed seats. Like you see the people that are sitting way in the back, and like it's from their perspective, and it was like based on the book by Gale Weathers called The Woodsboro Murders. And like most of these books that come out based off of tragic killers or stuff like that, like a Ted Bundy or a Jeffrey Dahmer, they have those kind of titles that are meant to throw, you know, like make you have like a chill go, you know, through your spine, or whatever the phrase is. So I liked that, because even to this day, when I watch the movie, my phone keeps timing out here, even though I watch the movie all the time, you know, it still has that effect on me. And I really, really enjoyed that it was based on a book. She finally, like you said, she finally got her way. You know, she, as some would say persistent, some would say annoyingly so. She was very, very, very like belligerent and intrusive, and didn't care about Sydney, got, you know, punched in the fucking face because of it. And, you know, she didn't know that no meant no, and boundaries and trauma and everything that, you know, that kind of thing. So she got her will in the end. And the movie starts off reminding us that Gale was kind of a douche, and this was all because of her. We also get to see Wes Craven continue, like you said, that self-awareness that, you know, this is a movie, this is a slasher movie, and these characters are going to make fun of each other. They're going to drop real celebrity names. Like within the first 5 minutes, they mentioned Sandra Bullock, like, you know, his girlfriend, was played by Jada Pinkett. So obviously, Wes Craven is still sparing no expense with the actors of the time. You know, these are they're not A-listers, but they're definitely actors that were pretty prevalent, pretty up and coming in either the horror scene or in just pop culture in general, before pop culture really became a thing. And, you know, it's like him or her and Omar Epps, who was actually, I can't remember if he had already done Dracula 2000 or if he was going to, but he had already been in certain movies. He was in Juice with Tupac. So he had already done a lot of movies that, you know, you knew who Omar Epps was if you were a movie fanatic of any, you know, any means or anything like that. So he kind of started, you know, I have written down here, he kept that self-aware element to the franchise, and it was really cool.
Yeah, something that was like pretty self-aware about it, and also just kind of funny, is like when they're in line to get the tickets to go to the movie, Maureen, she's like, can't remember the exact line, but she's like, it's always about some white ass girl, like this and that, like basically like this is like white people shit. Because I mean, we all know, you know, a lot of the elements of scary movies, kind of white people shit.
Yeah, blonde girls running through the woods,
exactly,
trips and falls, eat shit, and then the killer's like magically behind her, even though she outran him like 6 or 7 blocks. Yeah.
I love that you know, they point out and make fun of those stereotypes both in the first movie and pretty much immediately right in the second one. They just like beat you to it. Honestly, they beat it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we said, it's the self-aware element. I think Wes Craven was the first to do that. You know, it worked famously. Like I said, these movies are so rewatchable. Objectively, like I'm a big fan. I'm biased and everything, but like these movies are so rewatchable. They tell us a specific, realistic story that you want to believe will never happen. But like I just went out to the damn car to get something in preparation of this shot, and I can't remember what, a cable or something. And I come back and, you know, as I go outside, I don't know if you remember, I looked at you and I was like, I'll be right back. And then I was like, holy shit. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Because, you know, Randy taught us, you know, never say I'll be right back. And Stu made fun of him, and then death happened. So speaking of Randy, I can't wait to get to that part in this video. But yeah, no, I'm sorry. You're still kind of raw on that one.
Yeah, man. I'm upset.
Yeah, how you're pretty upset about Randy dying, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I
mean, who couldn't be? Like, I don't like. That's just, it's horrible.
Yeah,
it's horrible.
I don't even know why I asked that. That was a stupid question, but yeah. Anyways, anyway, yeah. So the movie starts off as strong as the first one, I think. Maybe not exactly as strong, because you kind of had that. You know, for the first movie has that level of, I don't know if it's the word is charm, but it's that expectation of no expectations. You're like, okay, what the hell is this about? You know, I'm looking at the poster again right now. I think I said that in the last video. The poster doesn't really give you anything. It just shows you that, you know, the five main big time actors whose names are on the billboard, and then a woman gasping. And I think there are several videos or documentaries out there showcasing how impactful that poster was. That poster is iconic. It's on t-shirts, it's on not posters itself, but it's on like magnets, it's on like many different forms of memorabilia, because it's so impactful. It just says the word scream, and you have no idea what you're watching, and the movie essentially wants you to scream. So a lot of that imagery and a lot of that the stylistic choices that Wes Craven took, I think, were phenomenal. And, you know, bar none, there's no one out there that did it better. Even in the, you know, I don't want to say the wake, but even in the shadow of John Carpenter, being given the title of the father or grandfather of horror or whatever it is, Wes Craven didn't give a shit, dude. He was just like, I'm gonna do my thing. I did Nightmare on Elm Street. Everybody knows who Freddy is. You know, he's a comical serial killer who it's funny to everyone else unless you're the person having the nightmare. So now he had to kind of step away from that and showcase a more serious, cynical, realistic, you know, there's nothing about Scream that'll save you at night. Like, oh, well, it's not real. You know, there's no such thing as someone who can get shot 50 times like Michael Myers and keep walking around, or Freddy who fucking just invades your nightmares and stuff. This is about a guy or a girl or several people who live amongst you and your loved ones, and then just start systematically killing you off.
Yeah, like people that you see every single day that you trust.
Exactly. This phone keeps timing out on me. It's pissing me off. Anyway, so with that being said, the opening credits, if we follow the criteria here, the intro before the title card, pretty awesome. You see you see Phil get, you know, murked. And then he assumes the role, Ghostface assumes the role of Phil, wears his leather jacket after stabbing him in the face, which I'm gonna get to that later, guys. That kill, I have some opinions on that kill, but he basically just like, and we should maybe make this PSA like a real YouTuber does. If you guys haven't seen these movies, if you want us to, we're basically spoiling it. So spoiler alert going forward. We're going to be talking in depth, in details, breaking down certain scenes. And if you guys want to watch this movie, if somehow you've lived under a rock and you've never seen Scream, no offense,
like
babe.
Me.
Yeah, no offense. If you haven't seen Scream and you have always wanted to and never had the time, or whatever the excuse that, you know, we all have, do it. Don't put this video on pause. We want you to watch it, but definitely come back to it. Or, I mean, if you don't care, then you've been warned. Spoiler ahead. So don't say we didn't warn you. Anyway, basically, he assumes the role of the boyfriend of Phil. He kills him in the bathroom. He walks into the bathroom and he sees two of the people, because they gave out souvenirs like they used to way back in the day at movie theaters. They gave him souvenirs of outfits of Ghostface, and they were like, you know, the studio sent them this and that. Everyone's dressed up. Instead of watching the fucking movie, which we don't get that, they're running around like, oh, kill, I'd stab you, and blah.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, because this is like the opening night of the movie.
Yeah.
And you'd think that, like I could see people doing that if, you know, if it's already been out and they've seen it already and they're just there to, I don't know, do whatever they're doing. But
like a room screening.
But
the room.
yeah, but instead they're just like running around being insane.
Yeah, and so they give the outfits look pretty, you know, faithful to the original, except they don't have that sparkly,
That
glowy
shimmer.
glitter that I wanted so bad. If anybody out there knows where I can get an authentic Ghostface outfit, please let me know, because I want to so bad. That's one of my favorite cosplays. It's literally the icon of Halloween for a reason. Everyone has dressed up as Batman, a clown, a pirate, or Ghostface. It's just everyone's done it. But I want to get an authentic one. So anyway, apart from that, basically he walks in after having, you know, acted like a shitty boyfriend and scared the hell out of her while she went to go get popcorn, and then said, you know what, why don't we just go watch the Sandra Bullock movie? And she's like, no, I'm not going to be, you know, I'm not going to ruin the night. Let's just go back in there. And she goes, she's a trooper. She starts watching the movie. And when he goes to the bathroom, she becomes really engrossed in the movie. And she's like, you know, doing the whole thing, which has become a stereotype for people now. They go to the movies and they're like, no, don't go in there. Oh my God, you know? And some people like it. Some people think it's funny. Some people think it's fucking obnoxious. And she's literally telling the person, don't go in there. Don't do that. The killer's in there. Don't be stupid, kind of thing. And he, Ghostface, dressed as her boyfriend, sits in the jacket wearing the mask. And she's like, all right, give it up. You know, take it off. Let's enjoy the movie, kind of thing. And the movie starts to get more tense. They start to, you know, get to a scene with a lot of music and the orchestra and stuff. And he pulls out the knife and just stabs her in the stomach.
Well, before that, actually, though, like, she, you know, obviously she doesn't take him seriously because, you know, she thinks it's her boyfriend.
Exactly.
And as you said, like, things start getting more intense in the movie that they're watching. And one of the parts that I really like is when she, like, grabs onto him and then she sees the blood on her hands and she's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And then he stabbed her. And that was something that I feel like was pretty important to that. I don't know. It's just.
It like, is. You're right.
Her, because she's so confused and she's so like what? Like the things that could possibly be running through her head, like, is this fake blood? Is he taking this like whole prank thing way too far? Or what happened to my boyfriend? Like, there's just so many things that could be running through her head. And then as she's, you know, all those things are just going through, and then she just gets fucking stabbed. And it's like.
Because, yeah, you're right. Because if you think of it from Ghostface's perspective, he's in his mind, he's like, okay, or her, now we know it could be, you know, multiple people. But the character, the killer, whoever is doing the killing at the moment, is thinking, well, what do I want out of this? Obviously, there's a motive. There's an overarching motive. There's probably a bunch of smaller motives, like, you know, maybe they just like the feeling of, you know, knife through sinew. I don't know. But the fact that you're right, if he would have stabbed her before she saw the blood or before she saw that something was off, the shock, it would have, I don't want to say confused her, but it would have made it to where she's like, what is happening? Who are you? Why would you do this to me? Seeing the blood in that initial, what the hell is this?
Yeah, there's like a build up to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that happens. And then, of course, it proceeds to, and this is all before the title card, it proceeds to show her, you know, in shock. She just got stabbed, obviously. She gets up, totally disoriented and wondering what the hell's going on. None of the people understand that this isn't fake because they're running around stabbing each other while the movie's playing. Don't ask me how that works, because when I went to go see movies opening night, if some asshole got up and started running around pretending to be someone on screen, I'd have been like, dude, sit the hell down, because I paid $20 for this fucking movie tea. Like, do that or go home, you know? But so if you're one of those guys out there, fuck you, bro. Like, seriously.
Absolutely.
But yeah, they basically go in there and they're like, oh man, you know, this movie, you know, it's going to be great, this and that. And they're running around, and she gets up and just starts walking. One could only imagine, like I said, disorientation, just walking towards the stage or the screen. And as she's walking, he realizes, I guess, you know, I don't want to take the chance of her surviving one stab wound. And I hate to put it that way, but you're kind of thinking about it. And he goes and just starts to systematically just cut her and stab her and cut her from behind. And people think that they're just acting out what the others are doing. But this isn't fake, obviously. Excuse you. Phone just went off. Anyway, but yeah, so it's super like messed up and obviously depressing because someone's getting killed. But that's what we all signed up for. This movie's about killing people, so you were like, okay, here we go. It's immediately starting, and she gets on the stage. In my opinion, I love Jada. I love Jada to death, but I didn't really care for how that was acted. I thought it was kind of cheesy.
I don't either. I actually wrote the exact same thing. That was one of the parts about the movie. I was kind of like, just almost a little, I hate to say it, but a little bit cringy to me. The way she just kind of like stands in front of everybody and just kind of screams, and then she's, making that weird.
Screams.
Yeah. She makes that weird ass face. She's like,
yeah.
She's just like,
it's kind of like, it's kind of like she tasted like the world's worst ramen. She's just like,
yeah.
I don't know.
And like, obviously, I've never been stabbed before, but
good.
Like, why? Hopefully it stays that way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But like, though, she didn't scream for help or anything, which, to be fair, there's a very huge chance nobody would have taken her seriously, but I don't know. That part was really weird to me. I had a lot of questions about that just like, but I mean, I get why they did it that way, but it was just kind of like weird, I guess. I don't know, cheesy, like you said.
I think if they, and I'm not saying, Wes, wherever you are, I'm not trying to, diss on your editing or whoever edited the movie, but like they could have shown more of the people's reaction. Like they showed one girl take her mask off and she's like, what the hell?
Yeah, and before she actually gets up to like in front of the screen in front of everybody, when he stabs her one of the times, some blood gets on one of the other girls and she like looks at her arm and she's like,
oh right, yeah,
it's weird. And so, and then when she gets up there and starts screaming and everybody's like looking up at her, they're all like, and I actually was thinking the same thing, like we don't get enough of everybody else's reaction because obviously they're not taking it seriously or else they would be helping her,
right?
But they're also confused, like, and it's like I don't really understand. I don't know, it's weird, like,
yeah. And like you said, it's definitely something that they could have, like what we both said, I guess, something that they could have done, utilized more of the showcasing people's like confusion, like where's this coming from kind of shit, but I know that we had to start the movie somewhere, and I don't want to like spend all the time in the world talking about the scene, but it was definitely interesting to see that he just started the movie immediately, like we said before, and when she dies, very very comedically, and if those of you who haven't seen it yet, there's probably YouTube videos out there of just that one scene. Tell me what you think. Yeah, let us know in the comments if you think it's cheesy. Maybe it's just us being overcritical, but it was kind of funny. And then, of course, it shows the classic, if memory serves, the classic, like fabric tear sound of a knife, and then shows the scream with the two, and the ooh, whoa. It's like that song starts playing, and you're just kind of like, am I in the right movie? Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I like it. I dig it because it's so, like I said, I don't want to think too much about this, but you guys came to watch a review video, so I'd like to think that it's Wes Craven showcasing his abstract talent, using songs that don't really pertain to like a slasher movie. Like theoretically, a slasher movie has a lot of like string instruments and like pianos and organs and just like think of like your Dracula kind of score and like Halloween theme stuff like that. And he just uses these like pop songs and these like grunge songs or grunge-ish kind of songs like from back in the 90s to just kind of like, I don't know, break up the tension or make it seem like it's a little less serious than it actually is. The visuals and the audio are kind of contrast, and it works. I don't know why it works, but you hear that song start to play, and the movie just kind of keeps going. I think it shows like the college, like it shows where Sydney's at because she's like who we care about. Yeah. So as far as the first appearance of Ghostface, obviously it's kind of hard to like with the first movie, it's kind of hard to keep that as like its own thing because you do see him pretty fast. He shows up, he's the one doing the killing kind of thing. But the first appearance of him to Sydney is how we should clarify going forward that we're trying to highlight because it's more impactful, it's more memorable, it's more to the point. Like, unfortunately, nothing against, not Tatum, what the hell is her name? Casey in the first one, and then Phil and Maureen. They're kind of like the the chick swimming, the chick skinny dipping in Jaws in the very beginning. It's like no one was there for that. Nobody came to see Jaws kill those first couple people, you know, or whatever. And same thing with Scream. Nobody went there to see them die first. They went there to see Sydney survive and Gale and Dewey. So when she first sees that he could be back, or even hears about him, it's like a phone call or some shit. And she gets like a prank call, and the guy's like, "What's your favorite scary movie?" She's like, and he's like, she's like, "Who is this?" And he's like, "You tell me." And she's like, "Oh, it's so and so."
Caller ID, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh shit," spoken like a true Chad, you know. And she's like, "You know, it's a class whatever felony," and she does the whole legal jargon, and then hangs up on him. And she's like, "You know, hope you enjoyed the movie," and clicks. And we're like, okay, cool. She's gotten a little more savvy, a little bit more like grounded. She's like, all right, this is a part of my life. I'm not going to run from it. I'm just going to deal with it as it shows up, which I thought was pretty rad right off the bat.
Yeah, it clearly shows that she's like legitimately trying to move on with her life. And, yeah.
So I basically wrote a bunch of stuff, and it's kind of out of order here, so bear with me with that. But the first quote unquote first kill, like for the original, it was obviously I'm trying to remember, it was Casey, and then after Casey it was like Casey and her boyfriend, whoever his name was, and then like it was, I forgot who it was after that, because I'm just tired, I don't know, blanking, but it was like more of a more isolated, like it kept happening, but it was like now people were catching on. For the second one, it was Cece, which was played by another star who went on to do Buffy and stuff, and that's oh my god, what's her name? Sarah Michelle Gellar. So I'm trying to remember back when I first watched this movie, and if I knew or if I thought she was gonna die, or like, oh, it's gonna be a close call, it's her, why would they kill her off? But then I was like, Drew Barrymore bit the big one in the beginning. So
yeah, I mean, when I first watched this one, the second Scream, I was definitely like, this bitch is gonna die.
Fair.
Yeah, I can tell.
That scene was very, I guess we're moving on to that. That scene was very reminiscent of When a Stranger Calls for me. The whole, obviously the phone call thing, but there's a scene where she's like walking towards the front of the house, because who wouldn't go to the front door when you think someone's stalking you inside or around your house. Maybe not go outside, but definitely you want to get control of the situation and get as close to the front door, as close to a cell phone or a kitchen knife or something. And she turns and she looks up the grand staircase, and that just reminded me of When a Stranger Calls. Whether you watch the original with Carol Kane or the remake with the chick from Push, I don't know. My ADHD is all over the place right now, but yeah. So it was very, very reminiscent of that. I just can't help but see a bunch of homages to different movies and different, media when it comes to these Scream films, because Wes Craven was a visionary, and as far as like breaking the fourth wall ish, referencing stuff and showing little Easter eggs and stuff like that. I think it was part of his repertoire for sure. But I really like that, and the fact that she was so close to being okay. That's another thing that these movies do really well, is they showcase that sense of false security. It's like, oh, well, it's fine. I'm with my friends and nothing's going to happen. The first movie, not so much. There was a lot of, splitting up, so to speak, and a lot of people going off their own way and then taking the chance of getting killed. In Scream 2, these fucking kids are always splitting up. Everyone's always alone. Like, people go off and they're like, oh, well, I guess I'm going this way now. Like, and you're like, all right, guy, I guess, especially when a Gale and Dewey do it. Like, you're like, did you not learn from the first time?
Yeah.
But, it was super awesome to see that Ghostface was way more bold in this one.
Yes.
Didn't give a shit, dude. Like, he was like, oh, word, all right, you guys are going to turn around and go this way. I'm just going to magically materialize behind this bus and just kill one of you anyway. Like, it was crazy. Like, I had to suspend my disbelief a little bit, because it seemed like he was like instant transmission. Those of you that watch Dragon Ball, he was just instantaneously just like, and he showed up at the spot he needed to be. And
almost too fast.
Yeah.
A little bit unrealistic.
Yeah, like the car scene. That was kind of weird. Like him just being in the three people on the middle of the street, a bunch of flashing lights, and Sydney and her friend, whatever her name was, the black girl, and she's like, oh, we're gonna go. I gotta go find out who he is, and then she's like turning around and she's like, no, I gotta do this, and they constantly are like gesturing towards the car. You're gonna tell me you're not gonna see a dude in a black cloak in the middle of the night with lights everywhere and a white face who just got in a car accident, mind you, come out of the damn car and go, I guess I gotta hide. Like,
yeah, like they didn't hear the door
nothing.
open or close or anything. Like
his garment didn't get caught on the window or any of the broken glass. Like, he wasn't disoriented enough. He was able to run and then come out the other side and stab her in the chest, you know. And granted, it's a movie. I get that, guys, but we're being critical here. That's what this is about. But and that's just nitpicking. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of these movies still, but you got to kind of break it down. I'm trying to see all. Yeah. So I wrote here that Scream is basically a love letter to slasher movies. Whether that's the phrase or not, it kind of made sense at the time I wrote the notes. But there's a lot of references and like a lot of things that happen that the first time I watched it, I was like, okay, that was kind of weird. I feel like I've seen that before. And it never dawned on me until 34 years old making this video. And we're like, is that an homage to The Shining? Like, it was insane. Like, how many things just jumped out at me being an adult and watching the movie and kind of looking for stuff that was out of place or purposefully put there. Product placement, Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next we have staying on track here. We have the dopest kill. For you, I'm gonna let you tell us what the dopest kill for you was first.
So honestly, I really like Randy's kill. I mean, I hate it, but the way that, you know, he does it, because obviously, you know, he picks up the phone. I think it was Gail's phone that he picked up, actually. And
yeah, I can't remember.
He was like, Gail's not here or whatever. And, you know, he's like, he lets them know that he can see them. So, of course, they're frantic, you know, looking. Randy's trying to keep him on the phone, distract him so that they, you know, Dewey and Gail can find him easily. And Dewey starts to get cocky and everything. And next thing you know, he gets just fucking ripped into the van and he's screaming for help. Like, he's screaming and there's a lot of noise and commotion going on in the van. And as soon as all that noise starts, that group of guys just comes around the van. They're like,
that one guy does like a 360,
bro. Yeah,
bro.
He's like twirling around, just having the best time playing this loud ass music. Meanwhile, somebody's literally getting slaughtered to death in the car next to them.
Legit filleted, bro.
It's just, I found it almost kind of funny that they covered up, you know, they filled in like a possible like plot hole. Yeah. Like, how did nobody notice that he was getting killed in there or whatever?
All the terrible stars aligned for Ghostface. I mean, Mr. Ghostface had it all laid out for him. He was like, all right, guys, we're going to have these two Chads walk around, or three, I think. One with the boombox shoulder style. Yeah. And he's like, all right, man, let me get a little twirly.
Very
when you get
90s.
To that, when you get to that slidey door, let me get that twirly, dog. And then he does the thing, and he's meanwhile just chopping Randy to bits, basically.
Yes. I mean, I also like, I know you have some opinions, mixed feelings about Phil's death. But I think there are a couple elements to that one that are honorable mentions, honestly. Mm-hmm. Like the way that Ghostface, I don't remember if it was what's his face or the reporter girl.
Oh, Mickey or
Mickey, yeah. I don't know which one it was, but whichever one, they kind of predicted that Phil was going to put his ear to the stall.
Yeah.
And he based the entire kill off of that pretty much. And I found that kind of cool, I guess, interesting that he was able to like, because, you know, he was like saying a bunch, whispering and saying like creepy shit in the stall next to him.
Nonsense.
To bait him to like put his ear up to the door. And then he happened to stab him in the right spot by looking at his feet placement, stuff like that. So I think like that part of it was definitely like interesting and something good to mention. Yeah,
I think now that hearing you say that, breaking it down, because that was actually the lamest kill for me, so that was just the next thing we're going to cover. So before I get into that though, I agree with you on the dopest kill. I thought it was Randy. We were sitting on the couch asking each other, so what do you think is the dopest kill in this movie? Second time we watched it, and I was like, oh, 100% it's fucking Randy's kill. I mean, that kill's insane. He does it in broad daylight, not afraid, super bold, as we were talking. Not only is Wes Craven being bold, doing all these like, you know, cinematic liberties to just kind of kill who he wants and showcase what he wants to showcase, but the killer himself is going around doing whatever they want to do in the middle of daylight, you know, with a bunch of witnesses, not giving a damn whether they're teleporting or not. They're doing what they want to do. And that was the literally the bravest kill, or, you know, however you want to put it, because they were in a van that was not parked behind a building or in an alleyway or even up against a building. Like, it was 360 degrees parked in the middle of a sidewalk that led to a park.
Yeah,
so it's
and the group of guys walking by just shows that more.
Exactly.
Like with the, you know, the music and everything, it just shows that more. Like, just people casually walking by, you know.
Yeah, and since you, this is actually working out really nice. The way that you said it was honorable mention for you, that it was also a cool kill the way Phil died. For me, I didn't really care for it because, well, before I say that, I think it was Mickey. Because
I was thinking so too.
Because if you think, he was a student, so he may have had classes with him, and he probably knew that he liked drama, and that way he was doing that whole, like, because if I remember correctly, the argument, and you probably have to use the subtitles to hear this shit, but the argument was like, no, I don't want to do that. No, you come here, and it was like he was basically pretending like he was either on a cell phone arguing as a couple. And he was like, "Oh, God, these people are fighting. Let's listen in, you know." Yeah. And he took that as like, you know, this is what you get for being, you know, nosy little shithead. I'm just gonna stab you in the face.
Yeah.
Now the logistics of whether a knife can go through a bathroom stall. I told you if it's.
Yeah, I was questioning that because.
Yeah.
All the bathroom stalls I've seen are like this weird hard material. It's not like a wood type material. But then again, this is like in the 90s, so I wasn't even alive then, so I'm not sure.
Fair.
I don't know what the bathroom stalls were like then, but
yeah, I think
that's just very nitpicky, but still something I thought about.
Yeah, I think it was more or less a particle board kind of mashup composite thing, but neither here nor there. The knife went through the thing, stabbed him in the face, and I don't think it's clear. I think he died from that. I don't think he stabbed him anymore because he wore the jacket. But then again, he probably did because he got blood on the jacket. And if he stabbed him in the head and he fell face down, he wouldn't have bled on the jacket, theoretically. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I wanted to be a blood spatter analyst for those of you who wonder, but we're not going to talk about that in this video. Anyway, he basically killed him in a weird way, in my opinion. I didn't really care for it, but I definitely like your take on it as far as like a flip take. We actually discussed how a lot of the things that we differ on, I like that because who wants us both to talk about the same shit, you know? Yeah. But anyway, moving on from that, the overall plot, we kind of covered a little bit already. I think it was pretty cool that it was not so much a rinse and repeat, even though it was two killers. It was Mrs. Loomis, who was Billy's mother, you know, Skeet Ulrich's character. I would keep pronouncing his last name wrong. It pisses me off. Anyway, his character's mother comes in this role, and she's played by Roseanne's sister from the show Roseanne. She's also Sheldon's mom in The Big Bang Theory. I thought it was pretty cool that she was doing movies in the 90s, even though she was doing a TV show. Speaking of which, there's a lot of TV show, like not references or Easter eggs, but it's just little trivia that we'll touch on in a second. But yeah, I like the fact that it was kind of, I don't know if the term is red herring or not, but I really enjoyed that she was kind of unassuming. She pretty much replaced the Linda Blair cameo in the first one as like the annoying reporter lady trying to get her 2 cents in. But it definitely leads to a lot of plot points as far as Gail's character development, which I know you fucking loved.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think Gail's character development is one of the most essential elements to the plot, because, you know, in the second one, she seems to be so much more passionate about helping Dewey and Sydney find the killer rather than, you know, having the next big story and creating something that's going to get her fame and all that. Like, we see her, you know, she tells Dewey, she's like, dude, there's no fucking cameras around here. I want to find who this is. And then that's when he realizes, he's like, oh shit, she's serious about this. And that's honestly like a turning point in the movie. And there, you know, Gail has a couple moments like that in the second movie, and I think that it's super essential to the plot, honestly. Like,
absolutely, yeah. She, like you said, she had that, some would say, the come to Jesus moment where they're like, okay, this is my job, but people are fucking dying, so I need to weigh it, you know. And I really enjoyed that element because Gail was pissing you off in the first one. Something fierce.
Yeah, absolutely. Seeing her get her shit rocked was amazing.
I remember that vividly. You were like, hell yeah, do it. And she gets punched again in this one, and Sydney's like, you know what, you didn't learn the first time.
She deserved it in the second one too.
Exactly.
I do start to like Gail a lot in the second one, but as we said earlier, you know, the movie starts off kind of reminding us that she's kind of a bitch.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when she does get hit that second time, she did deserve it, just like Dewey said. And Dewey's a super nice, non-violent guy, and even he was like, look, I mean, maybe you deserved it, because she was like trying to play victim, like, what do you mean? Like, no matter, because he basically said something like, yeah, you're doing your job at other people's like expense, basically, and while people are being hurt, you don't care who gets hurt in the process. She's like, well, I got hurt. Yeah, that's not the same, bro. You deserved it.
yeah, definitely showed the beginnings of what Gail would eventually become. I'm trying really hard not to spoil the third or fourth one or even fifth one, but Gail does become a big contender, and she does have a lot. You know, if you watch her from the first one all the way up to 5, you know, because I haven't seen 6 yet, but neither has Lex, obviously. But if you go and you watch her incline, she's like the Vegeta of this franchise. If those of you, again, the Dragon Ball reference, obviously I'm a fan. Vegeta has a very big character development, so it's the same kind of deal. She kind of goes from you can't stand her, she's annoying, to holy crap, Gail's pretty dope. But yeah, I have on here actually the not to go back on Phil Stevens' death, but I wrote on here is like the lamest kill because of the Scary Movie reference. I know you've seen the first Scary Movie, so the movie starts with which it doesn't make sense because he doesn't fucking die. He just what is it? I forget which of the Wayans brothers it is. Marlon? No, it's not Marlon. It's oh my god, his older brother. Anyway, that's gonna kill me that I don't remember his name. Sean Wayans. It's he goes and he plays Phil's character in the spoof, and he puts his face by the fucking door, and then like a dildo shows up, and it's just like tickle, and he goes, do it again, and he it stabs him through the face, but it goes through his other ear. And I thought that they made fun of the Phil kill, basically, with that Phil kill, because it was just lame. And I actually wrote here, I was like, you know, Scary Movie had its filled day, you know, pun. I suck at those, but I had to put that in there, guys. I'm sorry. Lame, yeah. But yeah, so the overall plot was pretty sweet. Gail's character development was awesome.
Yeah, I like a big part of the plot too was actually something I think you mentioned earlier. A big part of the plot is like, you know, everything starts to seem normal again, and then just all hell starts to break loose, and then that's kind of the big turning point in the plot, especially like that scene of Sydney, you know, when they're zooming up to her face, and it's just because she's such a great actor, like just the expression in her face just says so much. It just says, fuck, like, here we go again, it's starting again. And then that's like, that kind of leads us in to the plot of the movie. Like,
you're talking about the Derek scene where he gets cut, right? And she sees
he's cut, and then
he's like getting tended to by like Dewey and them, and she's just like you said that with which only Nev Campbell can do. Like I've seen other people do it, but she is so good at like that little twinkle in her eye where no tear, you don't get that little tear yet, but it's that gleam in her eyes where she's looking, and she's like, and she does this thing with her lips where she's like trying to hold in, you know, crying in the movie, and you just see him, he's like, you know, oh crap, I'm getting, you know, am I gonna be all right? And Dewey's like, yeah, you'll be fine, and he's wrapping the cut, and she's like, damn it. And you hear that classic Scream score of like, oh shit, here we go, like you said, here we go again. Yeah, that was really, really good. We talked about including that in the review many times before we sat down here, obviously. And that leads us to the best supporting character. I guess I'm gonna go first on this one. For me, it was Dewey. Dewey, now this is totally biased, guys. Probably you guys be the judge. Let us know. Judge us for once. Oh yeah, this is the first upload to the new channel. Holy shit, I just realized that.
Indeed it is.
So yeah, welcome to judge. We judge everything. You get to judge us now. So for me, the best supporting character was Dewey. You kind of fall in love with the Dewey character. You get invested in the Dewey character, and you know, David Arquette is he's unusual, but he's a good familiar, like your Uncle Dewey, like your mom's brother, that they weren't quite estranged or anything, but he was definitely the one who, like, you know, took her lunch money, or like, you know, pushed her down, you know, like the not the stairs, it was terrible, but like, you know, like down the hallway or something. Like, and your mom's like, yeah, your Uncle Dewey's such an ass when he was a kid, but he's like great Uncle Dewey now, you know, and he's one of those kind of guys. And you kind of get his investment in the fact that he was almost paralyzed. Like he was, they cover that a lot too. There's like Randy holds him accountable, like, yo, what's up with that stupid ass limp, bro? He's like, oh, they severed a nerve, a tendon or whatever. And I'm like, oh shit, cool, you know. But he's awkward, he's quirky, like,
I actually agree with that. I think the best supporting character is definitely Dewey for me, because you know, even with him being physically disabled from the attack in the first movie, like, he's still, if anything, even more determined now to protect Sydney, and more importantly, catch / kill the new killer. And like, he's just such a genuine person and stays true to his values. And I really love how in the second one he doesn't just like kind of immediately give in to Gale like he did in the first one. Like, you know, she starts giving him some attention, and he's like, he starts to kind of like fall for her.
I was 24 for a whole year.
Exactly. He almost kind of starts to like fall for her a little bit, even though she's kind of shitty. And obviously he stands up for Sydney and for himself, because she wrote something pretty like backhanded about him in her book. Yeah. About him being oozing with inexperience.
And he like has it, like he has like the page and everything. Yeah.
And so I really like how he, like, you know, stayed true to his values and didn't give in to her until he saw some true, genuine character development. And just all that, along with him just literally supporting everybody and doing everything he can to just solve this issue. It's just, he's definitely the best supporting character for me.
And like we said, he wasn't even a cop. Like, he wasn't a cop in that town. They weren't in Woodsboro.
It wasn't his job. Like, that wasn't his responsibility to do that.
Yeah, no badge, no gun, nothing. It was just a man with a messed up wrist and a limp on the opposite leg. And, you know, I put up in here that you, obviously, like I said, we fall in love with him and stuff, but you actually get to see the Gale relationship, or like born, essentially, like the flower, so to speak, starts to mature of them. And he, you know, they have that scene in the student film place, which we'll touch on, where they start to get hot and heavy or whatever, they start kissing and stuff, and then the killer starts to show clips of the people murdered moments before they were murdered. And they start to have this, like, well, kind of like in The Walking Dead, where characters start pairing off, and they're like, do you really want to fall in love during, you know, the end of the world, zombie style, you know, but you're like, life finds a way kind of deal. It's super relatable. I think most of us have been in a relationship where you really didn't think that person was right for you, or you really didn't think that person was something that you really wanted to get involved in at that specific time frame, whether it worked out or not. That part of it is super relatable, because like you said, he was very on the fence. He was like, this bitch just wrote shitty stuff about me and Sydney, like, I don't want to kiss her, like, you know. And he kind of was able to see through that, and Gale was actually starting to put down that front, that you know, tenacious side of Gale Weathers, the reporter, as more of Gale Weathers, the survivor of the Woodsboro murders. And you kind of got to see that awkward, combative back and forth with her and Dewey. And, you know, like you said, the impending character development is what I put on here, and how it got serious as the body count grew. She got more serious, and she was like, I just want to find this fucker. You know, she said like 3 times. But you know, shout out to Courtney Cox dropping the F-bomb coming as she was filming Friends. Like, you watch her on Friends, and like, speaking of that what we mentioned earlier, I think I forget who it was, is going around telling her that she was like topless, and she's like, oh, it's fake, it's my head on Jennifer Aniston's body, you know.
Yeah, that's so funny to me.
The reference. And then like earlier they referenced Randy was talking about how he was pissed at who got to play him in the Stab movie, as opposed to Dewey was played by David Schwimmer, who was Ross on Friends. So like, that's so funny that they kind of like added that, because I think it was right around Scream 2's release, before or after, that her opening credits went from Courtney Cox to Courtney Cox Arquette, because she actually married David Arquette, you know, meeting on the Scream set and stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool. That stood out to me years later, obviously, when Friends and Scream were done, wrapped up and stuff. But Now we go to the worst supporting character. I think for me and you, it might have been the same. Did you write Derek?
So Derek is like my second. I
Oh
kind of have
shit!
two.
All right,
I kind of have two.
here, go for it. Tell me your first,
So
or tell us, I guess.
yeah. So honestly, Holly, I they don't really have the same kind of friendship relationship as her and Tatum do in the first one, and it almost seems like they kind of wanted us to feel that, but it's not really there. Like Haley or Holly and Sydney's like closeness kind of just feels like it comes from proximity rather than actual genuine like feelings and friendship, and they really just kind of seem like roommates to me, honestly. And she doesn't really add a lot of depth or anything like that to the movie, or really any of the relationships or anything that really happens. She just kind of adds another like kill to the movie, and kind of feeling a little bit the same way about Derek. Although the reason why he's my second is I do see some value in his character and like his supporting, like the supporting element, because he does provide proof that Sydney like learned to trust and love someone again, and that she made like big efforts to move on with her life. I think that's probably a lot of the reason why he's there, is to show that she genuinely like she didn't just like lay around, mope around, hide under a rock, and like, you know, like probably what a lot of people expected her to do. Like she did what she felt like she needed to do and trusted someone again and move on. But that's really like the only part of that because he doesn't really add a whole lot much, you know, a whole lot more to the movie other than that. Just like Holly, it's just kind of like, honestly, he adds some suspense to the movie and adds like another suspect to me.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's really all he kind of added, besides, you know, showing us that Sydney really took steps to move on with her life.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad we have this contrast, because I kind of I just slaughtered him, honestly. No offense to the actor. I just thought it was pretty unnecessary up until what you just said. It makes perfect sense that, you know, he provided that element of life goes on. It's okay to trust again. You need to heal. As long as you heal, it's on no one's schedule but yours, but you have to make sure you heal. And, other than that, like, he really served no purpose. I think, if anything, like I wrote here, it could have been just like her dad. Her dad is mentioned, I think, by Gail or by Mrs. Loomis at one point, and they're like, well, her dad's not a suspect because he's out of town. They could have done that. He could have been like away or something like that.
Yeah.
He kind of added that just unimportant, just like you said, another body. Like,
yeah, another body, just another thing to confuse you, throw you off on who the killer might be.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's just kind of like they kind of just threw him in there.
Yeah, because he wasn't the jock, he wasn't the bad boy, and he definitely wasn't the cool guy.
Yeah, he was kind of just there.
Cringy.
Yeah,
You know, he was the
that
theater
scene,
kid.
bro.
Oh, God.
Oh my God, that scene where he
lying to myself.
he gets up on the fucking cafeteria table and he's like singing and shit.
Yeah.
And everybody thinks it's so adorable and great. They're like, oh my God. And I'm like, dude.
And the whole time,
And
Billy's just like, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
I might be biased, bro, because I'm a band kid. I don't know if you guys know, band kids and theater kids usually tend to not get along well. I don't know. I just find theater kids, no offense to you if you're a theater kid, a little bit cringy. So as soon as I saw him do that, I was like, here we go.
Confirmation to the stereotype.
Here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even though, like I said, he wasn't a jock, he wasn't a bad boy, he wasn't, you know, the cool guy, those tropes would have made it even worse. So I'm glad that he wasn't. Yeah. Like, at one point he tells Mickey, you know, I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna fucking kill you. But who wouldn't react? He didn't do it like in that Chad way, like, oh, I'm the quarterback, I'm gonna throw a football in your ass or something stupid.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
He was genuinely like, why the fuck would you try to like make my girlfriend believe that I would hurt her, right, and like make it seem like I'm in on your sick bullshit, you know?
Yeah, and like I said, it was one of those things where you were kind of confused. He was always like his cloud, or his cloud was in his head. His head was in the clouds. Like, at one point, she comes out of with the two, you know, the Igor and Igor of the Secret Service thing, and he's just like standing there like, walking around. No one knows what's going on.
Yeah, what the fuck was he there for? He was just chilling outside.
Super
Like,
yeah, like, and all of a sudden she comes out and he's like, Sid. Yeah, Sid. So anyway, and then the girl interrupts and she's just like, oh, I'm her psychiatrist. Let me get in the car. And he's like, so is this over? Or she's like, yeah. Like, she doesn't say yeah, but like she could have, you know?
Yeah.
And you never see him again until the end and when Mickey kills him. But yeah, like he gets tied up all because he gave the necklace to Sid, like, oh, my girlfriend, I'm going to give her my letters. And then the guy, you know, the fraternity's like, oh, we're going to hang you from your theater thing. And graffiti. When I was a kid, I thought the graffiti on his body was like cuts. Like they cut that into his flesh. At first I was like, what is happening? Like I was like, what is going on? Is this what
college is about? I don't want to go.
Granted, I was like 14, had no business watching those movies, some might say. So I was like, yeah, I was like, oh, now he's cut up with a ritualistic, you know, crucified. I didn't even put together that he was in the play. Like I was so confused.
Yeah.
And then he comes out and he's like, I thought they were gonna hang me here till opening night. And I was like, Jesus, that would have sucked. But I mean, they would have given you a little bit more purpose if you would have. Yeah. But true. Yeah, so of course it's very tragic. I don't want to take away how tragic it is because Mickey, you know, is like you said, trying to get Sydney to be like, oh, your boyfriend was my partner, and she's like, you motherfucker, and then you realize you're like, no.
It's very tragic. Like, you know, Sydney unfortunately plays a part in his death, but it's not her fault. You know, you can't expect her to trust, you know, when the last boyfriend she had tried to fucking kill her. So, you know, when someone she knows is clearly at least one of the killers is like, come on, man, we got her. Like, you disappeared on me, this and that. Like,
he's like, you no.
It's hard. I could definitely see from her perspective why it would be hard for her to believe him, because she's like, Derek, what? And of course, you know, if she would have untied him, there's a chance he still would have killed him. But at the same time, like, I
think he knew that. That's why he shot him when he did.
Yeah.
Because he knew he's like, wait, Sydney might
just shoot him anyways.
Yeah. His ego wouldn't have allowed him to shoot Sydney, so he would have had to shoot him. And like, you know, of course it's almost in a sick way, like she crossed him out as an official suspect when he died.
Yeah.
And it sucks.
That's the tragic part about it that I'm trying to get at. Yeah. And
so anyway, that happened. Going back to just following my chaotic ass notes here. That happened, and I just want to touch real quick on the scene where Dewey and Gail are looking at the footage that she's like, oh my God, that's a footage of the Omega Beta Zeta, whatever that house was. And you're like, wait a minute. And me as the viewer, I'm like, I've seen this movie 100 times. And I'm like, the movie's so good. If you would have asked me before right now, or when I made the realization rather, I'd have been like, the movie's so good because you didn't suspect Mickey at all. Then I'm like, wait a minute. They're showing footage of all the people before they died. Mickey literally had a camcorder glued to his hand most of the movie.
Yeah, when Dewey and Gail are having that moment, and she's like, "Wait a minute, that's not my footage.
Yeah.
What the hell?" You know, that's like one of the only clues I think we get actually that it could be Mickey. But you know, when we realized that, we were like, "Wait a minute, that's pretty obvious though." But it's just not something you think about. Like, it's honestly, it's crazy how they did that.
It also shows like which kills he did.
Yeah.
You know, because we were going to do that series. I know you looked up on YouTube, like looking up cliff notes because we didn't know if we were going to have enough time to watch the movie again before this filming. So she was like, let me just look up a couple, you know, highlights of the movie to kind of get my juices flowing to write my notes. And you came across that one person, but you know, obviously I'm not shitting on you or anything, but like whoever you are out there, you got that idea.
I mean, it was a great idea. Like,
yeah, we thought about it. We just didn't do it, you know, and it was basically making like a short video showcasing which killer did what, especially in the first and second, because there were multiples and stuff. And but yeah, anyway, that we kind of got a, you know, like an unofficial take on who did what when we saw that footage, because he was that film student, you know, and then Mrs. Loomis had a very, very clear motive, kind of like Billy.
Oh yeah,
his motive was super clear, and Stu was the one that was kind of an adolescent, you know, like, oh, mom's gonna be so mad at me. I just had to throw that in there. I'm sorry.
So what's your motive? Peer pressure.
Yeah.
Way too sensitive.
Yeah, you cut me too deep, dick. Dude, Matthew Lillard and Ski Ulrich, bro.
Fun fact. Matthew Lillard actually said that that's like his favorite line from obviously Scream 1 is the only one he's in, but it is the whole my mom and dad are gonna be so mad at me.
Absolutely.
Love it. And then I may as well say it. Skeet Ulrich's his favorite line is, well, we all go a little mad sometimes.
And that's what they wrote right here. So that's why we showcase the Blu-ray plus, you know, so you guys, in case you're listening to this on mute, which why the fuck would you?
Yeah, look at us. We're beautiful.
Exactly. Well, I don't know. I just agreed. Now you kind of know. Anyway, so yeah, so the dub, I wrote dub. Mickey was the killer the whole freaking time, man, because he like, you kind of see it. He's like, oh, I'm going to show Gail and I almost said Stewie. I'm going to show Gail and Dewey, you know.
Mom and dad are going to be so mad at me.
Yeah, mom and dad.
Family Guy.
Yeah, right. Oh, ruined. Anyway, but cool whip. But yeah, so the theme music, like I said, I'm super biased to this movie, guys. This movie is super nostalgia overload. I told you when we were first getting into this, I was like, when we get to the second one, I'm going to geek out because that's the one I remember seeing first from beginning to end, knowing exactly what I was getting myself into. I was a little, like I said, on the young side. Then I got older and I was like, all right, horror movie marathon, let's fucking do it. And this was before Netflix, before any of that kind of stuff. So I literally had to either go to Blockbuster or go to a used movie store, buy these movies secondhand, or just get lucky and watch them on the illegal cable box that I had growing up. But yeah, so I was super biased when we got to this one. And the movie has these two songs, Dewey's theme. We get to hear Dewey's theme for the first time. It's that like bell and either piano or organ thing with like a bass in there. And it's like anytime you see him on screen, the whole boom, 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 boom thing starts playing. Super catchy for me, super comforting. Like that song, I listen to it on my free time sometimes because it's super nostalgic for me and comforting. And you only hear it when Dewey's on screen. I think it's actually called Dewey's Theme, if I'm not mistaken. And then, of course, that song by Collective Soul, She Said, that we just listened to before we filmed this. The music video is, I'm actually going to insert a clip right now. The music video is pretty freaking awesome. You know, because it showcases the movie, it shows scenes from the movie. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, except for certain parts of the lyrics, I guess, where it's like her overcoming adversity and stuff, which is kind of cool. But I just love that. I love that super 90s, you know, bell bottoms, chunky boot heel kind of outfits that, like, you know, Sarah Michelle Gellar's character was wearing. It's just so 90s. And now that we're moving on to other styles and other things and people walking around with different things on and stuff nowadays, you get to that. When I was growing up, there was no 90s era yet because I was living it. So like the 80s
it's
and
just
the 70s.
how it is.
Yeah.
It's the current thing.
The 80s were like, oh, stonewashed jeans and pretty much anything that was worn by Jamie Lee Curtis and stuff and Heather Langenkamp, you know. And then you get to the 90s and you're like, oh, Sydney's just wearing clothes. And now we're watching other movies like The Conjuring and stuff like that. And you're like, wait, the 90s definitely had their own style.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
You know, Japan's actually living the 90s right now, according to some of my military buddies that are over there. But yeah, so it's super nostalgic for me. I love it so much, that music that they selected for this movie. We covered how disorienting it could be to have an uplifting song for a killer franchise, but it worked. I don't know, it worked.
Yeah, I like that. Like the music in the second one is definitely different from the one in the. Honestly, I think there was more music in the second one than there was in the first one.
They just kept using the same music in the second one, so yeah.
Yeah, true, but it's different. Like the music in the first one is a little bit more like somber and like, I don't want to say like unsettling necessarily, but like I keep like remembering the scene in the first one where like Billy climbs through Sydney's window, and it's that one song, I think it's called Don't Fear the Reaper.
It's a Gus Black cover.
Yeah. And it's just so like, I don't know, it just sets the vibe really well. Whereas like the music in the second one is more, like you said, uplifting, and it's weird, but it works.
Well, the first one was very much a like super like you said, somber, but also very like innocent. It was a very innocent movie. I mean, Sydney was literally a virgin. They made a point of talking about that. It was so unassuming. And then the second one was like, all right, Sydney's not a little girl anymore.
Yeah.
She's like I went through a traumatic experience. I'm ready for another, even though I don't want one. It kind of like, it's almost like a sick and twisted Harry Potter. Like she grows with the movies, you know, and I don't like, again, I don't want to spoil for you because she obviously grows even further, but, yeah, the music was really good for me. Now we're arriving at the tail end. So if you guys have made it this far, we're about an hour in. We really appreciate it. First of all, we're about to break down the biggest three things. I guess we save it for last. The best thing about the movie overall, the worst thing about the movie overall, and there might be some overlap, but then what we give it out of 10. Best a rating out of 1 out of 10. 10 being the best and 1 being the worst, obviously.
Scariness element.
Oh yeah, and the scariness element, how scary it was. So for me, it was pretty scary. Not as scary as the original because the original seemed a little bit more realistic. We both came to that conclusion.
Yes, I actually saw, because I was doing a little bit of research and looking at other people's opinions and synopses,
I guess.
Yeah, whatever. on the second one, and I saw a couple people say that the second one was more gory.
It was.
I don't think so.
Really?
Like, I mean, we literally see like Casey, the first girl that got killed in the first one, and her boyfriend. We literally see their guts. Like he disembowels them. We see their guts like everywhere, and like she's like hanging from a tree with her guts just spilled out all over the ground, and like that's way more gory to me than like just blood and gunshot wounds. Because that's really, well, I mean, there is the scene, of course, with the, I don't know what to call them, like the agent officers that are like,
the cops.
Yeah, the cops that are following Sydney around to make sure she's safe. I guess that did get a little bit gory. You know, the pipe thing like went through his like eyeball skull. That was pretty gory, but I don't know. To me, like seeing someone's insides on the outside is a little bit more scary to me than that.
I don't know. I think I definitely I see what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I think what that person, I don't know who it was, but that source, I think what they were getting after was the fact that none of that stuff happened on screen, though. You kind of got the aftermath.
Yeah.
And it was like in clips, like you saw, you know, it's like a very disorienting shot of it, just like somebody running up to Casey's body, and then a flash of light, it was gone. We actually saw the pipe go in the guy's head. We actually saw Derek get shot.
That's true.
I get what you mean. Gory probably shouldn't have been the word they used in that context. They probably should have been like, it's a little bit more visceral or a little bit more unapologetic. But it was definitely more in your face. I think it got more practical in the second one. They had the technology or the money or the budget or whatever. But I definitely understand what you're saying. I probably wouldn't have said gorier.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. So yeah, and I like that adds to just the difference, the little bit of contrast without being completely different, because it was very similar to the original. But I would it would be, I think, a toss up. I think it's kind of like
they've both got their own elements of what, you know, subjective like scariness. So
yeah, I
think
think
something that's great about the movie though is they switched it up a little bit, but didn't make it completely unfamiliar.
The first one definitely caught us all off guard, as it should have. It made you feel like, well, your best friends could be your enemies. And then the second one was like, okay, you got to be even more careful. Life sucks because you have to be more careful.
But at the same time, things might be normal now, so maybe you can let your guard down a little bit.
Well, it also taught you that when you trust someone and you go through something with someone, like legitimate, like Gail and Dewey and Sydney, they're the tripod now because Randy's dead. It was, you know, that quadrant, so to speak, you know, that foursome, weird, between them. And then Randy died, and now obviously, you know, because Sydney at one point she's like, it shouldn't have been Randy, it should have been me. And that just sounds like what a tight knit group of friends would say if they lost one of them.
Absolutely.
Like, you know. So now it's a tripod, and they literally know that anyone else who comes in real life, any other actor who comes in is kind of like, whoa. But the three of them, they kind of know that's the control, that's the fail safe. It's the three of them. But yeah, so the best thing of the movie for me was, as we mentioned a million times, the self-awareness. So here's kind of like a synopsis or a summary. The self-awareness to show how fragile Sydney was and how she consistently had to maintain even though she was fragile. We talked about how that scene where you see her, you know, trying to hold back tears when her boyfriend is getting killed, and she's like, here we go again. The boldness of Mickey and Mrs. Loomis to kind of kill people in plain sight. the beginning of the franchise basically really growing and becoming this, because the first one ended kind of abrupt. It was just like, okay, it's over. This one kind of ended the same way with that, what we would now use a drone for, that very expensive helicopter shot of like Sydney walking on the campus. And, but it kind of, I don't know, even though it was the same ending, it wasn't as just cut. I think they kind of let it go a little bit more, and it kind of made you feel like
graceful, for sure.
Yeah, like it made you feel like there was something else, even though you get that what is that trademark, one last flash of Ghostface and that tear sound and stuff, and then the music starts, whatever it is. But the music was good. Obviously, we talked about that a lot. The Friends references and the tongue-in-cheek stuff. Like, I think I noticed for sure. We were watching the beginning, and when her roommate at the very beginning, when they show Sydney in her dorm room, she's like looking in the closet for something, and you see a sweater that, even though it's red and blue, it kind of looked like Freddie's sweater still. So it was like very reminiscent of Freddie and stuff.
Because they made sure to like show it like
twice,
specifically that thing, and it was because it was just randomly hanging outside of everything else. So like I feel like they were definitely trying to do something there.
I really liked the Ghostface's cell phone game. That's what I wrote in quotes. His cell phone game was actually pretty on par on point in this one. Not to say that it was bad in the original, but he definitely tried to one up the originals. He definitely did his homework.
There's definitely like a reason for that too. I mean, as we see in the second one, cell phones are a lot more common in the second one. There's like flip phones now, I think. And like in the park where, Dewey and Gale are trying to find who is talking to I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on his name. I've literally said it 1,000 times. Randy. Yeah. It's just like there's like so many more people have phones. So I mean, it makes sense that Mickey would be, better with the phone game.
Right,
know?
Exactly. Yeah. So we definitely like how you actually see technology growing as well. Progress. Yeah. I also wrote that they really wanted us to think Cotton was the killer. Yeah. His acting, Liv Schreiber's acting, was like he was like very like spastic and very like almost like he was socially awkward. And
I mean, he cornered Sydney in that one scene and made us feel like, oh my God, like he might obviously wasn't the killer in the first one, but maybe he wants his revenge on Sydney for,
And like you said, it was like one of those classic who did it? Like the movie felt like Clue. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
He definitely, Wes Craven is, I think, the first, I don't know if I said this in the first video, but he's definitely the pioneer of horror slasher movies adopting that Clue feel of like, who did it, But yeah, it was pretty cool that they had that red herring. That's a proper way of using it there. Yeah, good job. On me, I guess. The red herring being Cotton, they really focused on Cotton and his spastic way. He, Diane Sawyer, and then it's not until obviously you get to the end that you realize all he wanted was his interview. He feels like he needs to be rectified of what happened. He went to prison for a year because of Sydney and Gale, and then Gale gets him out, and then but he has those really weird moments where he's like, well, Gale, are you having second thoughts? Or, hey, Gale, are you questioning your character now that you're the main reason I'm out? And then Gale's like, oh shit, did I fuck up?
Yeah.
But
which is great because Gale does the same thing to Sydney in the first one. She's like, questioning yourself now, huh?
Exactly.
Put the wrong person in, huh?
Exactly. She was on the other foot for sure.
And that's also another thing with Gale in the second one is that other reporter like puts her on the spot a couple times, and like
she's like, oh,
she gets put in the same position that she was putting other people in the first one, and it's just such
she sees she's like, oh, you're just now getting here?
Yes.
Really? And I was like, oh, damn.
You're not the main bitch now.
Exactly.
Always there, like in everybody's fucking business. And
yeah, it's super intrusive. And then at one point she's like, look, listen, local woman, I understand that you're infatuated with me, blah 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 blah, and she's like, but stop. And then she's like, you're right, not the right time, you're right. Which even shows that Gale would not have done that. She'd have been like, fixed her hair, told Kenny to get his fat ass back into the thing, and said, hey, fat ass, come here. Yeah, rest in peace, Kenny. Kenny, oh god. But yeah, she would have done that. Reacted super messed up and stuff. And even though Mrs. Loomis was not giving away that she was Mrs. Loomis, she was definitely being more professional than Gale was in the original. But that caused Gale, I wrote here, to focus less on being the first on the scene, being the reporter reporting anything Ghostface, and feeling from that to feeling personally violated, responsible for the deaths in the sequel. Because at one point she was like, holy shit, Randy's dead. She screams. She does the scream. The new guy, I forget his name, the young black guy.
Joel.
Yeah, he's like, oh my god, and just like his legs just disappear, bro. Yeah, and it causes her to be like a detective, more of a detective than a reporter. You know, she starts to use her reportive, you know, skills to kind of help Dewey figure out who this is. They get like a Batman and Robin thing going on, which that fucking scare. Oh my god, when we all thought like Dewey died, the music was perfect.
I almost cried.
Yeah, I remember we first watched it. I wish we could get that clip, which let us know, those of you, because you know my old channel, we used to do with CJ and stuff, we used to do reactions of us watching movies and actually show the live reaction of us watching for the first time. If you'd like us to do something like that, let us know in the comments, because we're doing a different formula. As you guys can tell, we're doing it more podcast style. If this is cool, then let us know, obviously, that you like it this way. But there are certain scenes in movies, I can only think of some of the franchises we're going to cover in the future, that Lex is going to literally have like a holy shit moment. And if you guys would like to see that, if that's important to you guys, let us know in the comments. We'll try and make it happen. But yeah, so it was super jaw-dropping when you see him get stabbed behind that soundproof wall, and Gale's on the other side not being able to do anything, and all the blood was like, oh my god,
yeah,
it's like everywhere.
They really had us believing like that's the end of his story.
Yeah,
like,
and then Cotton shows up. He's like, oh, I tried to save Dewey. We're like, we're not gonna get a body, holy shit, you know. And obviously you find out later there's a live one. I think a lot of people didn't see that coming.
Yeah, that was another thing I forgot to mention as far as like Gale's character development goes. Like the way that, you know, Joel, he's like, I'm back, you know, let's do this story thing. And he sets the camera up, gives her the microphone, and then, you know, that she hears them like, oh, we've got a live one, and she's like,
and you hear the Dewey theme,
and she just like throws her microphone down and runs. It really shows, you know, she's not worried about having the top story, being the first, you know, one on top of shit and like getting it out there. She's worried about him. She jumps in the ambulance with him.
Her man
goes with him. Yes.
But yeah, dude, super awesome character development. And then, like I told you, there's more to come. So yeah, that was, the movie was pretty dope. And then obviously nitpicking here, incoming with the worst part of the movie for me, I had to suspend the disbelief that Mickey was basically Superman. He was faster than the speed of sound because he was appearing in different places. And even though there were two killers, but there were scenes where you clearly saw Mrs. Loomis somewhere else, and then the other one would appear.
Because like in the first one, they are very fast, but it makes more sense because they show, you know, one somewhere, but they don't show the other one, and then they like kind of switch off and stuff like that. And they do show up and leave really fast, but it seems more realistic for a human being. The second one is almost like a little bit too quick.
Or they're killing at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I believe when like Dewey was getting killed by whichever one, the other one was trying to kill Sydney and her roommate.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So they were like, it even adds to the more boldness of this movie. They were like, well, we're gonna
split up and like.
Yeah. They weren't working as a unit. They were working as like a different kind of unit. Like, you know, each person had a role, and they were either not following a time signature, or they were following it too risk, like too much of a risk, you know, which ended up getting them. And then of course they had that issue where she was like, you know what, no, it's not how you think, which he thought he was going to get off on pleading insanity because it had never been done before. And he referenced like OJ and Johnny Cochran and stuff like that. But she was like, no, there won't be that. I'm just going to kill you and say that you did it and I survived, like Gale would have, you know, said she survived. But yeah, I had to suspend the disbelief for me a little bit. And, you know, although it kind of makes it scary because you ask yourself, holy shit, like there's no sense of security. There's nothing that you can kind of say to yourself, oh man, well, how did they do that? Oh, it's too fake because he ran too fast. Not really. There's people that can, you know, there could have been a third person, you know, or I'm reaching now, but like I'm nitpicking when I come to the worst parts of this movie. If there is something that we're not covering, that you guys are like, okay, you guys totally left out that it was dog shit because of this, please let us know. We want, you know, we're trying to be objective here. Obviously we're a little biased. I know I am, with some of this stuff, but I think for the most part, we're trying to be as biased as possible. So we're definitely wanting to know if you guys think part of it was shit, even if stuff that we thought was great, let us know in the comments. You know, we're judging shit here.
Yes.
So
that's
definitely
the whole point.
let us know. Let us know. Fill the comments. It'll help the algorithm, first of all. And it'll also help us with, you know, if you're watching this on YouTube, obviously, if you're listening to it on Spotify, go on the YouTube channel. We judge everything, and just leave a comment. Let your voice be heard. We want to hear from you. But unless you have anything to cover, my voice.
No,
cracked.
I mean, part of what I thought was like part of the worst thing about the movie, we did talk about a little bit. Just like it, and it's kind of like it's pretty insignificant. So I mean, it's just like in the very beginning how the movie theater was so like unnecessarily chaotic and crazy. I've never seen a movie theater like that ever.
Well, I'm not trying to say it never, like, no, you're right.
But I mean, the opening, like,
it used to be like that. Like back in the day when I was a kid, like a little kid, people would, like I don't know if I told you earlier or not, but people used to set up little tents. Like when I went to see The Lion King back in the early 90s as like a 4-year-old or 5-year-old, there was a guy who set up, now I'm not saying as crazy as it was, but there was a guy who set up a booth literally selling stuffed animals of like Nala and Simba, and my mom and my cousin bought us stuff. But I know what you mean.
I can believe that for sure.
Premieres used to be crazy.
Yeah.
Like in Kaale and stuff, they used to be insane if the theater allowed it, if it made them more money, essentially. But that will never happen again unless you privately own a theater. Like if we could get Mark Cuban with his Landmark theaters to be like, hey guys, you can totally screen the room here and throw spoons everywhere and I'll pay people to clean it up. Like, sure.
Yeah.
But I get what you mean. It's just a different time.
For sure, yeah. And then of course, just we talked about this as well, just like Maureen's kill and how kind of like
cheesy,
a little dramatic and cheesy. I literally wrote cheesy right there. So it's
the
funny.
Cheese. Sorry, Jada. Sorry, we love you, Jada.
We do, yes. Yeah. So really, I mean, that's the only like worst things about the movie, which it's so insignificant that it doesn't really put that much of a dent in what we're gonna talk about next. I'm assuming a rating.
Yeah. I'll go first again. Basically, for me, I don't really like giving anything a 10 unless it's in its own criteria or if it's something like Endgame, which we'll get to the MCU. But for those of you that aren't familiar with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so if you're a nerd of horror movies and not comic book movies, we're gonna touch everything on this channel. But we're gonna touch everything. Oh my god. But yeah, I really liked the individuality between this and the first one, but at the same time being very similar. I think I gave the first one like a really high 9, almost a 10. This one I give an 8.8 out of 10. Basically, the sole basing for that rating is Ghostface, the boldness, not caring about getting caught, almost seeming that way that he didn't care about getting caught, and then the self-parody by Wes Craven, showing the boldness of a filmmaker doing what he did, continuing to do what he did, breaking the mold of not caring who he kills and stuff like that, or not worrying about it, and then carrying it over in world with Mickey and Mrs. Loomis and stuff. And how he's just not afraid. He's unapologetic about killing off main characters. You really didn't know who we thought Dewey died. We thought Gail was gonna die at one point when she got shot. Like he just didn't care. He touched everyone. He killed Derek. That actually happened. Nobody survived except for Dewey and Gail. But yeah, we didn't know. It wasn't a cliche. Nowadays you watch movies and you're like, well, in Scream they did this and this. So this is the movie that paved the way in a lot of ways for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What do you give it out of 10?
So I think a solid like 8, like 8.0, honestly. And the only reason, because I rated it I think about the same as you did the first one. I rated the first one about the same, like high 9, almost 10.
Right.
Just the only reason like I think this one I rated it a little bit lower is just because there's just something about the originality of the first one that I just cling on to a lot, and also just the fact that there's really, and this is completely subjective of course, but there's really like nothing I can think of that I didn't like about the first one compared to just the little things that I mentioned about the second one, the little inconsistencies and stuff like that we talked about. I didn't really see any of that in the first one, so that's why I give this one just a little bit lower rating. But I mean, it's still one of my favorite movies for sure, ever. Definitely, I've been living under a rock for my whole life. Apparently, I have not seen barely anything.
Awesome, because we get content now, guys.
Absolutely, yeah. But as far as the scary movies I've seen, Scream has been my absolute favorite. So even though I did like the original one a little bit more than the second one, it's not by like a huge margin or anything like that, and it's still just, it's phenomenal to me, honestly.
Hell yeah. I'm glad you like it, because like I said, these movies are timeless for me. I watch them at least once a year, whether it's Halloween season or whether it's, in the middle of March like we're doing it right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We definitely are going to do the third one, the fourth one, fifth one, and then when the sixth one comes out, we're going to do a review. Hopefully we get to do it. We're going to try and power through these the next couple days and just have one come out every day or days every other day. I can't words. So I'm gonna try and quickly edit this one and have it posted tomorrow, which would be even though it's 1:30 in the morning on Sunday right now, so technically Monday. But yeah, I got a lot going on, starting a new job and all this other stuff. But Lex and I are definitely going to be doing all these videos for you guys. Hopefully you enjoy them. Again, let us know in the comments, do you like the new format? This is the first official upload of the new channel. We judge everything here on YouTube. We're going to kick this over to Spotify because we've got feedback of people liking to hear this, these podcasts and stuff, when they drive and when they're exercising and stuff like that. And I know Spotify and Apple and everything, they have the podcast platform. But if you're watching it on YouTube, we're actually, as you can see, if you're watching it on YouTube, we have visuals as well. So if you enjoyed this, let us know in the comments, obviously. And we'll see you really soon for Scream 3 and a bunch of other videos probably in between. But if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, let us know in the comments. Fill those comments up. Let your voice be heard. Give this video a thumbs up or a thumbs down, depending on how you liked it. Like I said, leave a comment. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, subscribe for more content. And we also have a Patreon page that is up and running now. We have a couple of different tiers. I think there's a $5 tier, a $10 tier, and a $20 tier. The links will be in this video's description, as it will be in every other video that we upload. It directly contributes to the channel's growth and production value. We're able to buy these microphones, these headsets, and all this other stuff to kind of get the better quality for you guys. So find a tier that works for you. We greatly appreciate it. Or like I said, just hit the subscribe button, and that's a great way to support the channel, and it doesn't cost you anything. So we greatly appreciate that. Let your friends know. Give us any requests. There is actually one of the tiers on the Patreon puts you up above a list of people. Obviously, it makes you guys the patrons of the channel. You get to directly influence what we film in what order. If you guys want us to do the Karate Kid movies before we do the Batman movies, then we listen to you first because you're our patron. So if that's something that interests you, head over to the Patreon link, please. It'll help us out. And if you have anything else to say, I think we're good to go, guys.
I think we're good to go.
Well, I really appreciate you guys stopping by. Hopefully you made it to the end of this video. Those of you that didn't, shame on you. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see you guys real soon. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you in the next video. Have a good one.